No, I started with an example of mine, and I said that this same thing could be extended to groups where we have a shared value. That is,
Okay.
once we have this value as a goal or an ideal, then we can determine, we can evaluate all actions or all potential actions with respect, the results of those actions with respect to our goal, and then there becomes some set which is the best set.
I think there's. I don't know whether you want to take this the kind of consequentialist route or the deontological route, in the sense that if you're looking at the goals first, then the values would be derived from our aims. Whereas if we're looking at identifying our values, that comes slightly differently. And are we then asking, okay, are there any values that we all share? But Sam's point was, do we have to consider every single individual's point of view?
Right,
and there are certain values that I think are right for us to reject.
Yes,
but then the question becomes, on what grounds do we think that some moral claims are better than other moral claims?
Right, and hopefully I'll get that lecture up, because one of the key aspects of the superiority of secular morality is that secular morality is entirely internally driven, and it's data and results driven, and it changes because the participants within the system change, and it changes based on data. Yeah. So if there is this group, it's like, I agree. Do I care one bit about what somebody in the KKK has to say about human rights? Absolutely not. Their opinion is disregarded. The problem comes, let's say that most people shared their opinion and I am now the outsider. These are the complex situations that we need to work on and resolve. At the end of the day, I am the ultimate decider of what I consider to be morally right and morally wrong, and people will either agree with me or they won't. However, my opinions, my values can change, and I will change mine based on evidence, reason, and argument. Where religions fail is that they either can't be changed, or what they end up doing is coercion, conversion,
or at best mental gymnastics to try and justify modern morality.
Well, it's a religion gives people bad reasons to be good.
I'm not. I maybe I should clarify this. I am quite anti-theist myself, so I don't necessarily want to justify the religion aspect of it. My perspective here more is to discuss the fact that most atheists of recently have been taking a relativist perspective to such an extreme that I've even discussed a few that even though they might see that religion might be bad, it has become so problematic for them to even criticize it, because, well, how are they to know that moral set is so bad or so wrong? That
they've bought into a lie, in my opinion.
Yes.
They have bought into this myth that because we don't all necessarily agree that all opinions are therefore valid, and in the lecture, one of the examples that I use is a chess game, which actually I gave this lecture the day after Sam's TED lecture hit, so I had to go in and modify my examples. But chess has certain rules, and there's a goal. Now, all we need is some very simple things. For example, that not dying is good enough. And we can pretty much just flatly assert that anybody who doesn't think that not dying is preferable to dying, we can disregard them. But if you ask a bunch of chess experts what's the best move in a given situation, you're going to find that you may get different answers. You may get quite a few of the same answers. And it may be the case that in this particular situation, there is no best answer. There are a number of equally likely to be good answers. And what religionists have done is convince secular people that if we can't find a best or agree on a best answer, then we might as well just forfeit the game. We can't possibly pick a good answer. And that's a lie. We can identify that sacrificing your queen with no gain is a bad move. And that these 5 moves, even though they may not be the absolute best, all lead to a win. or all lead to better situations than the alternative moves that we've evaluated. So not having achieved the single absolute best answer does not mean that we're at a loss, that we can't do anything.
Yeah, but there's no answer at all.
And that was part of what I went through in that talk.
Yes, I agree with you. Although I will have to say I don't think that life is necessarily the pinnacle or the base function that we should agree on. I think it creates problems when it comes to debates such as euthanasia or.
Yeah, but those are exceptions to those are exceptional situations.
Dignity or self-identification.
Right. I tried to shorten that up because I don't want to give the whole talk here, but it's a set of basic general principles, and they all feed off of each other. That life is generally preferable to death. That pleasure is generally preferable to pain. That those types of things. And then when you determine that when they interact, when, for example, my life is consumed by so much pain, it may become the case in those instances that life is no longer preferable to death. And those are the difficult decisions that we leave up to individuals. This idea that the individual is sovereign is another one of those basic principles.
I think it runs even deeper than that, because if you a lot of the cases, trying to think what's his name, writes author, and his name just escaped my mind now. And who's got Alzheimer's now, Terry Pratchett.
Oh, yes, yeah.
And his scenario is not a case of pain or can't tolerate life, but his point when he did a lecture on euthanasia, his idea was to say that it was this ability to self-determine, this ability to be able to take control and empower himself to choose when he wants to live and when he wants to die and under what conditions.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah.
And that ties into the idea of individual sovereignty that I was talking about.
Yes, and I think if I were to pick a principle that, and I think I do think in terms of morals we share probably quite a lot, but this is how I would define it in terms of respecting other individuals' right to self-determine, and that extends to the point where that right infringes on other people's rights to self-determine.
Yeah,
I would agree. Yeah,
there are a lot of those situations that we need to deal with. We need to assess. They are complex. They are difficult, and it would be nice if we could actually get busy working on them. Unfortunately, we're mired down in constant quibbling because this one particular group of people wants to assert that X is absolutely and always wrong, and therefore you can have no discussion with them on the subject.
Yeah, so the Christian are moreover the theistic answer to these things. They always they don't want to have to think about this stuff very deeply. Yeah. They want the easy way of just having it all laid out for them to take care of it. And that's why the Ten Commandments and things like that are just so appealing. The whole idea that, all we have to do is put a list of rules on the wall in schools and in public buildings, and then everybody will be good. And this sort of simplistic, and I think it really speaks to a whole lot of fear of really trying to confront a lot of the complexities that are involved with making sometimes moral decisions aren't clear-cut. They will always involve a choice of lesser of two evils. Sometimes a sacrifice will be involved that you might not want to make in order for your life to be in the best place it needs to be. People don't want to have to face these things, and they will hide behind the easiest out that they can hide behind. So again, that's just like the appeal of putting a face on the universe. So rather than studying the real science takes time and is hard, and you can spend your whole life at it. How much easier to just think of the universe as some sort of benign father or being ruled by some benign father than actually, same with morals.